Hi, my name is Tiffany Hume, and I'm a bodywork therapist and spiritual counselor. And I'm going to show you a hip series that is amazing for just balancing the pelvis and stabilizing the pelvis and can work for relieving a lot of hip pain, but specifically sciatica. And the reason specifically sciatica is a lot of hip stretches actually make sciatica worse because they can actually create more instability in the sacroiliac, the SI joint, where the nerve comes out, thereby making the issue worse. So this series is going to unwind the SI joint and the lumbar vertebra, as well as create stability and strengthening and a stretch at the same time in the psoas muscle, which is a huge contributing factor in sciatica and a lot of hip pain. So I'm going to turn this around so I can show you this exercise. So it's helpful if you have 2 yoga blocks. It's not essential, but it will just take the exercise deeper and have more stabilizing benefit. You're going to take one and put one between your knees. The other one is going to go between the feet, and you're squeezing it between the ankle bones, keeping the feet parallel. And this one is squeezing between the knees or the thighs, both keeping the knees parallel, but also creating a turning on in the inner thigh muscles and a stability in the pelvis. So actually this is for the third part of the series, so I'm just going to have you put those aside for now. So keeping those feet in the same parallel position, pressing the palms into the earth, lengthening through the fingertips, lengthening out through the crown of the head, tucking the chin slightly. And we're just going to take the left leg and cross it over the right leg. And you're going to just start by doing gentle movements to the left. Just very gently back and forth. It's not going to seem like much at first, but if you stick with it, it actually has a profound benefit. So now we're just going to allow the knees to stay to the left. And again, this is not a big movement. It's very subtle. What's happening now is you're getting some lengthening and stretching in the psoas muscle, in the attachment of the quads. It's starting to go into your what's called the tensor fasciae lata, which is the beginning of the IT band. It's starting to go a little bit into the glutes and the muscles that attach to the sacrum and creating some space and opening in the sacroiliac joint where the sciatic nerve comes out of. And this part, you really actually need to stay here for quite some time, several minutes, to get the benefit of it. You'll start to feel it go up higher into the psoas, actually up into the diaphragm attachments. Now resist the temptation to go all the way knees to the left. That is not this exercise. That is a totally different exercise and has a completely different effect. And for sciatica specifically, it will probably make it worse because you would be creating too much torquing and twisting in the lumbar vertebra. We don't want that. So it's basically going as far as the knees can go without having to move everything around. There's a stopping point, and you want to honor that stopping point. Now, if I weren't doing this on a video, I would personally stay here for you know, maybe another 5 to 10 minutes, some time to really get the benefit of this release. But I'm going to go ahead and come out of it to just show you the other side. So we're going to switch the cross of the legs. And it's the same thing. Now we're moving right with the legs. And we're just going to start by going in and out, creating movement in the joint. And after you've gone back and forth several times, again, if you're doing this on your own time, you might go a little bit longer. You're going to move into the full stretch on the right side. So there is a stopping point. Again, if I was going to go to the ground, I would have to really move everything to make that happen. So there's a stopping point where my knees almost kind of hit like a lock. And from here, I'm going to resist the temptation for this left hip to come up. I want to actually move it down and out. So the knees are directing at a diagonal. The stretch is happening in front of the psoas here, the front of the hip. It's coming up into the diaphragm attachments. We're lengthening out through the crown of the head and the whole spine. We're pressing the palms into the earth, stretching out through the fingertips. And by now, you may, not everybody's going to have the same experience. Basically, you'll feel the stretch where you need it the most first. The longer you hold it, you'll start to feel it in more areas as you go deeper into the stretch. So I'm starting to feel it in the back of the hip around the SI joint. You may not, and that's okay. But eventually, you probably will feel it there. So again, if you're doing this on your own, please absolutely hold it as long as you feel like you're getting a deep release. Coming out of it too soon, you probably won't get the benefit of it. So resist that temptation. But I'm going to go ahead and come on out. And now what's going to happen is we're going to keep the legs crossed the same way. And I'm going to lift my pelvis and move it about 1 inch to the right. Now I'm going to rock the legs to the left again. But you notice that the cross is different this time, so I'm going to be getting more stretch on the outer hip here. It's a different rotation in the hip joint. So again, just rocking back and forth, getting the motion going. When I go to the final position on the left, I'm stopping where my foot stops. Again, I'm not going into bringing the knee to the ground in a full spinal rotation, though a lot of classes will take you into. That's not this exercise. I'm going to go ahead and just move my torso a little bit to the left and reach my arm up towards the ceiling and then reach it out across towards you, towards my right shoulder. And this is creating that stretch, and that twist is going all the way up into the top of the spine and up into the shoulder. And this one, again, you can hold for some time. It feels exquisite, actually. And the head rotation with it is helpful. This arm can come up if you like. You get a little bit more out of it that way. So I would love to stay here a lot longer, but I'm going to go ahead and come on out just for you guys. And we're going to uncross the leg. And crossing over the left leg now. And again, lift that pelvis up and move it slightly to the left. Knees, oops, my blocks are in the way. Okay. Knees are moving to the right now. Again, just a couple in and out, warm warm-up motions. And go ahead and stay all the way to the right. And then just moving the torso a little bit to the right, reaching the palm up towards the ceiling, and reaching the hand and the palm to the left. Now my head should be going left, but I'm talking to you, so I'm just showing you the position. And now I'm going to turn my head to the left. You won't be able to hear me as well. So again, holding that for several minutes. Now, as a general rule, I would say 1 to 2 minutes is beginner. Don't go any less. Honestly, these stretches can be held for, like I said before, 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it may sound excessive, and you may not need that long, but feel it out to where you don't lose the benefit of the deep, deep stretch. The longer you're holding it, the deeper you're going to get. So now grab your blocks. One between the feet, the other one between the knees. And it's really important to finish this series with this part of the exercise, because what's going to happen now is we're going to stabilize the pelvis, and we're going to bring the pelvic bones and everything, all of the tissues and everything about the pelvis into a parallel alignment. Whereas what we just did was, well, it wasn't parallel. It was stretching in a lot of different directions, and you want to end in stabilizing in parallel. So what we're going to do now is squeeze both blocks. And you're going to start by pointing the tip of the tailbone in between the heels towards the end of the yoga mat. It's not a big motion. It's not tucking the pelvis. It's not pointing it up towards the ceiling. Now, sometimes people have a really hard time with this starting motion, so I'll just have them start by rocking the tailbone. You can think about rocking it towards the ceiling, and then rocking it towards the yoga mat, rocking it towards the ceiling. And that just helps to wake up the tailbone and to start getting it to understand how to be directed in doing motions. It's not actually the exercise we're doing, but this is just a waking up beginner. And now we're going to point that tip of the tailbone towards the heels, in between the heels, towards the end of the yoga mat. And you can also think of the pubic bone drawing in and up towards the navel, like there's a zipper from your pubic bone to your navel. So that's not poofing out, it's almost a suctioning in. And just drop all of that. Some people have an easier time understanding that second instruction. They're actually the same motion. So if you start by drawing the pubic bone in and up towards the navel, your tailbone will naturally go into the position that I was directing you in the beginning. It is naturally pointing in between the heels towards the end of the yoga mat. So once you have that position in the pelvis, you can actually hang out in this position for quite a while, and even this is really beneficial. Squeezing the block between the thighs or the knees helps to activate this inner leg line, which will create more stability in the pelvis, and it will naturally put your pubic bone and tailbone into that position, actually. So now what you're going to imagine is that someone has a string tied to the end of your tailbone, and they're drawing a line up that wall at the end of your yoga mat. So your tailbone's going to start following. It's not a big motion. Do not push your whole pelvis towards the ceiling. That is not this exercise. As your tailbone is starting to follow, it's going to be pointing in the direction of the block between your knees. It may not get there, and that's totally okay. It's not a big motion. Like, you can see that I'm about, well, actually, I'm not really much off the yoga mat just yet. I am, but you can't see it. Perhaps about an inch or so. If you be really patient with this exercise and take it very slowly, your muscles will naturally turn on and start to activate to bring your tailbone into this alignment. If you try to push it up, you're going to bypass the exercise altogether. So just be patient with it, pointing the tailbone in the direction of the block between your knees. Not everybody's going to get there. And the more you do this exercise, you'll find that the muscles naturally turn on and it will almost kind of fly up without you trying in an effortless way. Again, reaching out through the crown of the head, tucking the chin, pushing the palms into the earth, reaching the fingertips down and out. If you've ever had sciatica or hip pain, this actually feels amazing. It's so stabilizing to the pelvis, and the number one thing that sciatica needs is stability in the pelvis. If your sciatica is really flared up, I almost recommend just doing this portion of the exercise. It's probably the best thing you could possibly do for sciatica, exercise-wise. Because what I'm starting to feel is a lot of stabilization in my SI joint happening right now, and actually a relief in all those tissues and the surrounding nerves. I'm starting to feel strengthening as well as stretching in my psoas in the front of the hip. And that natural flying up that I described just happened for me. It may not have been visible because it is kind of small, but I felt it. And my pubic bone is naturally coming more into that zipper position towards the navel as the tailbone is going even more towards the block. And we're going to start to get lazy, so remind yourself to squeeze the block with the knees. If you start to shake or bounce, that's okay. Actually, it's a good thing. Some of it is a trauma release. Some of it is just the muscles starting to activate that perhaps have never done anything remotely like this. If it starts to get really painful, that's not good. Come on down. If it's exhausting, that's actually okay because you've probably never activated a lot of these muscles, and it is a little tiresome. When it starts to get too tiring and you start to like slump, well then you just have to come down because you're not actually getting the benefit of the exercise. And in that case, you can rest and come back up, or you can also do very slow up and down versions of it. The longer you hold in the up position, the more all of this will start to activate and create that stabilization that we're going for here. All right, well, good luck.